Welcome to CyberSessions by CIISec. This episode is about being the CEO and career changing into the cyber industry. Enjoy the episode.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're here at CIISec Live here in Manchester. This is the CyberSessions, where we will be looking at people joining the cybersecurity industry and how we can change people's careers by doing that. My name is Ben Craig. I am the owner of InfoSec People. We are a boutique cybersecurity recruitment business working with companies across the UK and EMEA, supporting companies in hiring the best talent to support their organisations. Chaps, lovely to meet you. Patrick, Will, if you can take the stage and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you for having me. I'm Patrick Smith, CEO and founder of Zally. We are trying to power the internet with continuous user authentication, a team of 12 here in Manchester, and we're really proud of building a business from Manchester.
Fantastic. Will.
Great. Hi, so my name is Will Jackson. I'm the CEO of C2Risk, and C2Risk specialise in vendor risk management. So we work with international customers and their international supply chains to assess risk and remediate and mitigate risks within their supply chains.
Fantastic. So I suppose what we're here to do today is talk about part of this cyber session, how to get into the industry and, of course, how the industry is supporting organisations from the top down. So I suppose, first and foremost, what would you say is most important for people when they're trying to bridge the gap and get into the cybersecurity industry?
I think it's you need to find yourself a way in. And one of the good things about Manchester is the great community here. So we were really fortunate that we became a part of the Digital Security Hub and their accelerator program. So that was a organic way to getting into that whole ecosystem here in Manchester. So I think any founder, any business that wants to come into that environment is to actually approach some accelerator programs and try to find ways where they can actually engage with like-minded people and get challenged. Because you will always find in these accelerator programs businesses that are at different stages, but you will always I look at it it's like a personal journey where you can actually look more into yourself, into depth, and about how you should reflect on things. And that has been fascinating for us. So we started with the Dish Accelerator program. Now we're part of CyberBridge in the UK. That is all about closing the gap between the large enterprises like the BBCs, Cisco, IBMs of this world, and then the scale-ups in the UK. We are also part of Barclays Scale-Up program, which is 25 businesses UK-wide.
Wow.
of small, medium-sized businesses that works in cyber and want to solve the problem. So I think finding like-minded people that would challenge you, encourage you, inspire you is a good way to do it.
Fantastic. And on that point as well, from somebody that's obviously come through the industry, worked your way up, what advice would you give to somebody that is new to industry now, that has aspirations of becoming a business owner one day?
I always say don't do it, but knowing what I know now, I think it's not about building the biggest business in the world. It's about doing something, finding a problem that is wide, and don't speak too much to family and friends and try to get that validation about is this right or wrong. Go to other people in the community and then try to find people with like Dish or Bonded and things in the community in Manchester. I'm now referring to Manchester specifically because that's the scene that I know really well. And get some proper feedback. So the advice is try to get some feedback from people that has done it before. My way of doing it personally is to reach out to advisors and they become mentors. And actually they can help and guide me, because no matter how many businesses I've started before, how many successful businesses or massive failures that I had over the years, I always need to learn more. And the way that I do that is to get challenged by somebody that actually cares about it, not just financially, but actually cares about me and the team.
Fantastic. Will, how about you? Have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, going back to your first question, I think, is how to get into the space. I think you've also got to remember that there's multiple roles in the space. Not a lot of people know what careers they want in the early years of their experiences. So I think also there's several ways to access the industry. And I think about any business has multiple functions in it, not just the specialist functions relating to what that business is delivering. So I think you can almost fall into a lot of businesses, even in an early admin kind of way, and then work within and around it. And I think the one thing I would say is if you're wanting to get into an industry like cyber or any industry really, there's always openings within the overall business, the sort of holistic workforce. And I think once then you can get in and around the business, keeping your ears open, you can then navigate yourself around the business. I never chose any of my careers. I never chose a certain path, and to be honest, I still argue I don't really know what I want to do. Yeah. And I think that's really quite cool. Is be open with it, find the thing that floats your boat, and then really just follow it. And I didn't have the fortune of a degree or anything like that. I started in multitudes of different trades, and I just found the thing I liked, and I just made sure that in my own time I learnt about that, and invested in myself to try and put myself where I needed to be. And that's pretty much how I've navigated. And I think that's also, it's a very competitive market as well now. I would also say that with cyber, it's still a new industry. When you think about other business functions or other industry functions like finance or HR or supply chain, it's been around since the dark ages, right? But cyber's only really a relatively new thing in comparison. And really the birth of the internet really has really blown this into kind of almost like a market that we're seeing now. And so I think it's still quite early and young. So there's so much change going on it that I think that's also a really good opportunity for people to get in and then get in a fast stream of growth. But I think you also have to invest in yourself, and I think you can't be spoon-fed a career path. So that was probably my response to the first question, and I can't remember the second one.
Fantastic. So I suppose I'll ask you another question then to make it slightly easier. You've obviously a very interesting business with a great proposition. I suppose it'd be really great to understand, if people are at the forefront of what we're here to discuss today, how do you invest in your people and how do you nurture their skills and how do you give them the confidence to grow within your organization and be able to work autonomously with confidence, but also provide confidence to your customer base?
Yeah, and this is something I think if anyone's had the unfortunate experience of working with me, I'm joking there. I'm sure nobody would say that. I think I'm a massive investor in people in my own way. So I know there's programs you can go on. I've never done a program. I think the best way I've always found working with anyone is firstly, and this is really difficult to do actually, is to remove any hierarchical barriers. I think that's the first thing. I've always a belief that if you've worked in a business where you know that person could accelerate what it is you're having to deliver or achieve, but you have to go through a horrible kind of bureaucratic hierarchy to get to that person, then often you don't. And I've always thought if that person accelerates what you need to do the best, you should have the ultimate ease to access that person, irrelevant of where they sit in the organization. So I've always tried to run any business without hierarchy. Now, I know there has to be approvals, there has to be governance, there has to be that sort of discipline, but actually, generally, you can kind of almost not have it in the business. And also, I think, enabling people to have the freedom of expressing. So the worst email I can ever get is somebody saying, I'm sorry to challenge your decision. And I just think, no, please do, because like a parent, almost, there's no manual for running a business, right? And everyone's trying to figure it out. And I don't care whether they're the CEO of an international company, a listed company, or a startup. There is no manual. And I think you need people to challenge you because you're not always right. And I think then if you can try and get that culture of collaboration, freedom into your business and transparency as well. I mean, they're all really obvious things, aren't they? I mean, all over social media, there's the invest in your people and the clients come second or whatever it is. It is true.
Yes.
But not enough to put it in quote marks and stick it on social media. But that is in principle, it's right. If you put your efforts into creating that right culture in a business, then it becomes a lot easier. But you do have to have the controls in the business to manage.
Absolutely. No, I really like that answer. And I suppose an open question to the both of you at the moment, if we look at, you're looking to, of course, build foster that culture within Manchester. Now, equally at the same time, if we talk about diversity in its truest form and how we can build diverse teams to solve challenges more effectively, what are we doing at a business level to ensure that we're looking at the whole facet of diversity, inclusive of socioeconomic diversity, to challenge board level thought with people perhaps that come from different backgrounds?
That's a really interesting question, Ben. in our business, we trying to reflect the community that the business is located. So I learned from our CTO that has built tech teams around 350 with like 14 global offices. And it's important to be active in the community. It's also to try to attract talent that is not just the people that you find on LinkedIn. Encourage people and actually train them. We are very involved in the universities. So the 4 universities in Manchester, and that's a really good way for us to attract talent. I think no matter where, because Zally is potentially a global business, and we have global ambitions, but we don't need necessarily to be global represented. So we need to find some core element of being global in Manchester. So our team reflects that currently. And that has been a cautious decision where we have actually always thought about who's the right fit for our team, who will fit the culture, who would challenge the team, but also in terms of skills. One of the things that we find most difficult is to attract more women in tech. So we are partnered up with the Manchester Tech Festival, and they are putting on 8th of February next year. They are 8th of March. 8th of March, yeah. I'm looking at my marketing executive here to get the right dates. With the Women in Tech Festival to attract more women into tech. And because we would love to have that. Because remember, a lot of our users will be women. I always say that 86% of all decision is made, especially in the household, by the female.
Yes.
So that needs to be also reflected in the business, which if we are very masculine in every shape and form that we send our message across, is not going to be good. The end result will not be good. And I think, Will, I'm sure you can add on.
Yeah, I think operationally, the different perspectives of the diversity, so, you know, either gender or ethnicity, I think, and also if you're trying to operate an international business, I think that ultimately adds value if you're getting a perspective, especially in where you're operating as well. So, and I think from a cultural perspective as well, how you know, the challenges sometimes you face with clients or with employees as well. I think you have to invest your business in looking at your cultural diversities across your business to try and get the correct inputs as well. Again, a room full of guys deciding how to run a company is not going to be as effective as a mixture of men and women, I think, just full stop. And because there's different attributes, I think men and women add to that kind of boardroom. And I think also that geographically as well, I think that goes for the same. And if you've got, you know, operations I've worked in businesses before where we've had operations in large operations in, say, in India or in Eastern Central Europe, Northern Europe, the US. And I think again, you know, if you're going at it with just one perspective, then I just don't think that's a benefit, and it's definitely not attractive to people who want to work in the business if you're running it like a UK business. And I think, again, you know, even just the way you communicate out to the market as well, in using, you know, things, calls to action as well in this kind of thing, promoting that you're active. I think you mentioned, Patrick, around, you know, being active in the community, putting that communications and raising the flag of it. And I think if you really seriously pioneer it through your business, genuinely, not just to tick a few boxes, then I think you would see the benefits through your business. My experience definitely would say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose we've got to look at it in its truest form around how we can work with and for underrepresented groups. The biggest risk, I think, to the industry is in 10, 15 years where there won't be enough people that relate to those that are trying to break into the industry, like I'm sure you both had coming through. So absolutely. And I think from a female position as well, I think it's great to speak to you both, understanding actually how you're trying your hardest to become male allies to, you know, absolutely solve this problem. So
yeah, and I think as well, I think people that are underrepresented, say maybe from an education point of view as well. I'm the worst hirer of people sometimes, but I'm also the best hirer, because, you know, whilst I think a CV or demonstration that somebody's been well educated is great, experience speaks volumes. And I think there's, you know, I'm not wanting to talk ill of people who've gone through the education system, and I don't want to speak ill of people who haven't. But I think the value that those people have. So I always the last thing I genuinely do is look at a CV. Because I think, if I get the opportunity to engage and meet with the person, depending on the role in the business, I'd rather go with that kind of instinct rather than a paperwork process. We've all bought things on eBay before, and I know this is a bad analogy, right? Because we're not buying something, but we've all bought things on eBay or Amazon before. Can I mention eBay and Amazon? I don't know whether I can. So other sites are available, but we've all thought bargain. We've read the paperwork. It's arrived, and it's not been what we expected. And I think if you're hiring off paperwork, I think that is a mistake you're going to experience in your business. Equally, if you're hiring off your heart, you'll have that mistake as well. And I think if you can work around your business, your management team, your recruitment processes that are trying to actually extract the best of those people, not just from a paperwork perspective, I think you can only really win, surely, with that.
I think I do the same as you, Will. I hire a lot on gut feeling, because if you end up, honestly, anybody, how many have done this, sent their CV to a friend that has looked at it, and especially now with ChatGPT, where you can actually ask for anything and you can get a perfect CV out from it. So looking at a CV is one thing. That's just a way of filtering the potential candidates, or having help to actually filter them, but then having those conversations and then asking the right questions in the interview, I think is important. So we are family first as a business. So we because we want to protect users at the end of the journey. So we are B2B, but at the end of the journey, there's a lot of consumers here. So we also need to be family focused. And if they are if they don't have any relationship with their family, or are or wanting to have that, it's very difficult to be a part of our culture. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I'm self-taught, so I can't expect, or I need to expect from others the same as I expect from myself.
Yes.
So I need to have self-belief that I'm doing hopefully a good job. I'm not the one to answer that, but and if you come in and it says I spent 9 years sitting at home and coding in my basement, I take that more than spending years and years building a CV. Because they could be amazing at what they do, but you need to meet the person and you need to do skill testing and seeing, okay, are they fine on skills? Okay, good. Will they fit the team? So that's how we recruit today. So we look at skills, male or female, doesn't matter, and or background. But most important thing is that at that end, will they fit the team?
Brilliant. And that's the thing. If we look at people, and obviously the session's built around people trying to break into the industry, they're our biggest investment. And equally at the same time, they'll be the ones working on your platforms, speaking and engaging with your clients. So I suppose if you could typify what your differentiating factors are as a business, and why your client base should really, or prospective client base should look to position themselves towards having conversations with the both of you, how would you demonstrate that?
Okay, we have a novel technology. So we do continuous user authentication, and we are applying that to get rid of passwords. Properly getting rid of passwords, not just passwordless. So we are building a technology based on how you interact with your smart devices, are able to distinguish users, but also confirm who is holding the device. We're also able to see the unseen user. So we're using machine learning, algorithms, and AI to actually do so. And our USP is that we are able to do this continuously.
Yeah.
So all the other technologies that is available today, without mentioning anything else than a password, but that is point-in-time exercises. What we are able to do then is to continuously say this is a Ben, a Will, a Patrick, 3 minutes in, 3 hours in, 3 days in, 3 months in. So the session time becomes longer and it becomes more secure. If somebody jumps in to that session, we're able to block that individual. So that's our unique USP. That creates a lot of revenue streams for KYC, AML checks, because you can point in time check that it is the individual, but then you can use our technology to continuously say that it is the right individual. For financial services is brilliant, because we're able, if they use the login details, not their password, but use their login credentials, and then using Zally on top to actually know it's the right individual, you can get rid of multi-factor, one-time password, your YubiKey, absolutely everything, and just become the password, if I can say it that way. So So that's the long sales spiel, but that's what we do. And it's a data science project first and foremost. We are targeting e-commerce businesses first when we go to market, but of course we have global opportunity with what we are doing. Password is everywhere. It's not often, I would add that, it's not often you build a tech business. So I built a lot of businesses, and you're delivering a service, and when you tell what you do, people give you a hug. I'm so glad you're getting rid of passwords. And it's a great feeling that we're actually solving a massive problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, as somebody that historically had one password until I got into this industry, now I've got multiple. It's,
I feel a bit sad. I've had welcome one hash on all my passwords for like ever. I can't believe that's going to go. I've only just started to remember it. Do you remember as well when they started with passwords? You just had a word, didn't you? So you picked
password.
a word.
Yeah.
And then what you did afterwards? They said, well, you need a capital letter in it.
Yeah.
So then everyone made the first letter a capital, didn't they?
Yeah.
No, the first capital was it, wasn't it? So it was the same word but with a capital letter. And they went, no, you need some numbers in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll stick a 1 on the end. So everyone stuck a 1 on the end. And then they went, no, you need, and a bit later they said, no, you need a symbol. So we thought, well, I'll stick a hash on the end. And it was still the same word, wasn't it? So you think, we missed a trick really 10 years ago. We could have been like, hacking anything.
Yeah,
Just think of the word and then
Yeah.
just put a capital of 1 and a hash on the end and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, what's your lucky number? I'm going to assume that's in the end of your password. And how about you, Will? So again,
What's the lucky number, by the way?
Lucky number. Yeah. You should know that.
we're potentially about to cause data breaches, so I'll move on swiftly. But so, Will, over to you. So, how would you say that your, what's your differentiating factor as a business, and how are you looking to engage with people, i.e., your prospective clients or current clients, to kind of drive value?
Yeah, so we were traditionally a consultancy. I think a lot of tech businesses start that way, from my experience anyway. And then what we did was we pivoted from a consultancy to a tech-fronted business. So we took the view that 90% of what people are doing can be automated. And when I joined C2, I thought, right, we need a first principle. And the first principle was to automate for all of the stakeholders everything. Now, we'll never achieve that, which is great because that means we'll keep striving to achieve that. That's the theory behind the first principle, right? So what I wanted to do was take the technology in the middle of those stakeholders that use it, which is for us, suppliers, always clients, suppliers and assessors to assess that risk, and then grow that from the middle and just automate every process. But you can only do that if you know all the processes, right? And that takes some time. And that's where we're well on that journey now. And I think with the developments in AI and things like that, then this is really a game changer for us because that can accelerate that automation. And we can do some really smart things with that, which we are doing. So I suppose that's, for us, the sell is we're trying to remove manual effort. And with that, you get it's quicker, it's cheaper, and it's one source of the truth, and it's on a SaaS-based platform. Now, the difference, I think, other than that, which C2 are focusing on as a SaaS business, is that I'm a big believer that this can be sold consultatively. So I'll get absolutely burned for saying that because it should just be, license-based sales, click, Amex it, basket, and go. And I'm not saying that isn't something that will ultimately evolve in the business, but I think for me as well, this is about trust. And especially where we're operating with a supply chain and the serious nature of the result of not doing something within that supply chain. So for us, I like to really know our customers. So through the sales process, you could argue our sales cycles are too long. Well, I don't really care because for me, it's a bit of a marriage with this. It's not just a pure, we're buying licenses, we'll use your software for me. It might be for our clients, but I think for most of our clients, we have a really close relationship. So even as a SaaS business, we are very attentive with how we onboard the client to familiarization. I could give you a link to it now. It doesn't need an implementation, doesn't need customizing. It's instant. But equally, that doesn't mean you can't put that care into those clients and manage it through sprints of familiarization. Mainly that's what it is. It is intuitive, everything is, but that's fine. You could leave that. But I think there's a little bit layer on there that actually you want this to be a long-term relationship. The nature of what we're doing isn't just doing an assessment once a year. It's actually more and more assessments. It's the reassessments. And I think we can only do that if we've got that valid relationship with our customers. So that's I think where we are a lot different. Our differentiator is how close we are with our clients and how we support them.
So did you identify the challenges by being consultants first before you built the technology?
Yeah, and a lot of the industry is still manual. In that sense, it's supported by spreadsheets. It's often done consultancy led. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of the enterprise clients will spend a lot of money doing that. The mid-market don't have the luxury of that cash flow, yet they are still at risk significantly. And they are easy targets. It's every day in the news. I shouldn't joke, but I do joke that my business development team are basically Russians and Chinese, because every day there's something on the news, and over 70% of breaches are coming through the supply chain. And I think with the emergence of things like cloud technology, so back when I was a wee lad, it was all on-premise software. It was keeping people out of the firewall. And now, because anyone can fire a startup up, anyone can fire a tech startup up, and often clients are sharing data, personal information and financial information, healthcare information with these companies without really ever doing the right amount of due diligence on them from an InfoSec perspective. So specifically for the mid-market, what we're trying to do is reduce the cost and the time of delivery and the effort involved in actually making those supply chain assessments, if you like, and not have the consultancy element in there at all. Now, we can have the argument that with AI, and no one will have jobs anymore. And I really argue this. I think this is just almost so funny that people will make that statement. It is true if we never change the status quo and put a load of AI on it, and everyone will be out of a job. That's true. But we're not going to not change the status quo. If you think about your job in a day-to-day basis, 80% of your job will probably not stretch you. You will probably not learn. And if you could remove 80% of your function into something that was automated, instead of putting you out of a job, it gives you 80% of your time to grow and learn and expand. So it means that as the AI grows, you grow. And I think that's the same for your workforce. I think, there will be some functions that are replaced by AI. But I think fundamentally it will free up a lot of time so people can start doing things that are developing them and growing them.
And I think that's a really important point. And Patrick, I'd be really keen to get your thoughts. So as technology evolves, if you think 5-10 years ago, you wouldn't have necessarily thought there'd be a career in securing AI, as an example. So, in 10 years' time, what we'll be facing, how many jobs will that open up? So I suppose from your perspective, where do you see technology moving over the course of the next 3 years, and how is your business shaping up to ensure that, from a password perspective and with your customer base, that you're driving that initiative early rather than being reactive to that?
Yeah, so we are building something that is future-proof. We get a lot of questions on quantum computing, and especially quantum computing related to password, how easy it is to crack a password. I think we need to be open to any type of technologies. I think what the 80% that Will mentioned gives you is to build emotional connections with people, that you're actually able to upsell, cater for their needs, actually support them. And I think one of the biggest things with building a business is sales. And I think having time. So one of my biggest scares is that when you work with client relationship, you don't have enough time to understand what is the problem the customer have and how can I solve that. Because it always starts with identifying the actual need they have. Not that, okay, we have a solution, we're going to solve the problem for you.
Yep.
But it's very difficult if you can't solve it. But back to your initial question, is that it's going extremely fast. You can see you can get fired on a Friday and you can work for another company on Monday, on Tuesday you work for the same company again. So everything goes, without mentioning any names. So everything in this space goes extremely fast. I think one of the things that we need to make sure is that we train and understand the technologies out there.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people in cyber are very technical, have a technical understanding, but there are a lot of team members. So we have a lot of positions that are not tech related, and you need to get everybody on board on this journey. How can we utilize the tool that is out there? So I think upskilling is super, super important. Understand what we are bringing in, how that could benefit the business. Because otherwise we sit there with 10 AI different solutions and they all connect and everything, and you don't need to do anything, but you don't understand how it actually works or it impacts your business.
Yes.
So I always say that the best way that I do to-do list, I tried every platform out there, AI or non-AI and everything, is my notebook. And then by the end of the day, I can rip out the page and it's job done. And I will use my inbox as my to-do list, and I time box everything in my calendar. That's the way that I work. I'm using that as a silly example because the thing is that you don't need AI for absolutely everything, but it's really, really good to have with certain things.
Yeah.
And then of course with automation, making right decision, but you need to train the model. Where do you get that data from? What type of data? Is that broadly available? Like, I'm not going into a large discussion about what has happened this week while we are in Manchester with OpenAI, but the thing is that they train a lot of data based on everything we put in.
Yeah.
Where is that data? Who has access to that data?
Yeah.
How is that data getting used?
Who owns it?
Who owns it?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And like, I'm hopefully everyone is aware. Like, if you post something on Instagram, Facebook, you are no longer the owner of that image.
Yeah.
That image that Facebook and Instagram can use. Why? Like, so you can see yourself on a billboard.
Yeah.
It's a great campaign. Hopefully you have a Zally t-shirt on. When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
But then again,
One day.
they can do that. And things like that we are not aware of, and people, oh, I didn't know that. So you need to start thinking about it, and you need to also think about the next generation that comes. How do we upskill them? How can they learn about it? So my daughter does a lot of coding. She's very into it. She loves it. She's 7 years old, and she started to explore it. But keeping her safe and I can see, and everyone make their own decision about how they want to have their kids on social, but you need to remember they need to be able to make their own decision about how they want to be presented online.
Yes.
So we don't post anything about my daughter. When she's old enough to make her own decision about it, she can make a decision. We're not going to make that decision for her
naturally.
because we don't know where technology is and how that can be misused.
Yes.
As we see in a lot of commercials currently, in the next 3 years, 5 years, like this can be misused today. So I'm not saying that, but you don't know what the future brings. So try to be slightly restrictive. We are in cybersecurity, a lot of us, and it's important to understand.
Professionally cynical in cyber, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to your point as well, I think we're of a similar age to be thankful.
I'm 25.
Oh yeah, I'm 26.
Yeah.
So
I'm 45.
Oh yeah. So I think we're of a similar age to be grateful that our youth wasn't captured on social media, right?
Yeah.
I think we could probably all claim that, and I think we have to remember that's a generation gone now, and also protecting your kids and things like that with using social media. So I don't use any form of social media apart from the obvious one that there are others, but the professional one I use that, but I am also monitoring essentially what the kids are using as well. But I'm the same with you. I think this is an education thing, and I do always say well, you just think about if you post something, are you happy if that pops up somewhere else? And when we run businesses, we're the same. I always say to everybody, don't put anything down in an email or an exchange that you would not be happy for a judge to read out in court. And I think the other analogy is that you'd be happy for your mother to read.
Yeah.
I think that's the other analogy. And I think, again, having that awareness and education that actually it is not okay to treat business tools like social media tools. And also, also respecting the fact that, you say about notebooks and things like, I'm the same as you, notebook, inbox, calendar, and mobile phone, sadly. But, I'm the same with you as that. But again, try and be aware of what it is you're putting down, and also, when you do put things down, everyone misreads things.
Yeah.
And everyone reads something with their view of that situation that is not the view of the person who wrote it. And how many arguments have you had with somebody, or how many feelings of emotions have you had when somebody's written something and you've read it the way it wasn't intended? So I think going back old school as well, sometimes a conversation just is the best way forward.
Yeah.
And it's so actually inefficient sometimes to just go on these big email iterations when it actually just speak to each other. And I think we are coming back round to that.
And this is the thing as well, and again, it brings it back to the important topic, which is people. So I suppose bringing it back to that, because with everything you've both discussed today has been a people-centric, right? And the people support the technology rather than the technology drives the people. So I suppose what are you doing differently, and why do you want to be? How are you trying to be famous in how you engage with your people? So I suppose firstly how you source them, how you invest in those people, but equally how you ensure that they live and breathe the culture of what it and the values of what it is that you're trying to achieve as a business?
I think if I can start, Will, I think as a leader, it's my responsibility to be two things: the visionary one, the crazy one, and secondly, I need to enable people, to allow them to do things, make their own decisions. We are too small of a team to have a hierarchy, but I'm not ambitious of having like thousands of people. We know that we can deliver what we set out to do with a smaller team. So we trying to enable the people to make the right decision, but as long as they understand the mission that we're on. So me as the founder or the CEO of the business need to make sure that they know where we are heading, because then it's easier for them. They know where we're heading, so they will make the right decision.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I made a bad hire.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I really like that. And I suppose a good book that touches on that is The Leader Eats Last. So something you might have read. If you haven't, I definitely recommend it. It's very, very incredible, to be honest. Will, how about you?
I go back to the career thing again. And, when you're at school, you always remember that teacher. I think that's an old adage you read everywhere, isn't it? Your favourite teacher. But also through your career, you will also remember those people who mentored you and took that time with you because they saw something and they invested their time with you. And, there's a couple of people through my career who, I remember so well for investing in me. I've just turned that around and now I'm in a position where I can do that. I just make sure I do that. So I'm always available, for example, and I'm always available to just go that little bit extra with someone. It doesn't matter how trivial it is. I recognise that it is very important for them. It might be very easy for me, might be trivial for me, but it's important to them. And I think if you recognise that and creating that culture of doing that as well, you're not just a manager of people. You are also a mentor to those people. You could be that person that they name one day as the person who invested that little bit more in them. So I think, again, that's a leadership thing. And I think it's also an obligation, actually, as a leader to do that.
Absolutely.
But it has to come from, you mentioned visionary and, it has to come from somebody that people, because people always see the hierarchy, oh, he's really important or she's really important. It isn't really the case. You're just normal.
Yeah.
You've just gone on a different journey that's put you in that position. And I think, again, trying to get rid of those barriers and get that whole culture through your business so everybody reacts to everybody like that. And I think that should be one of your top strategic goals. And again, if you're very clear with the strategy or the vision of the company, really it's just executing on that. Not using the word executing in the way that it might sound.
Yeah.
But I think also delivering on that as well. And then it's the trust and the autonomy. And I've always said, people make mistakes, right? That's great that people do because that's how we learn. Another thing you see all over social media platforms, right? Failure leads to success, blah, blah, blah. But I think actually it's quite true. And I think if you let that happen, and I'm not saying you're going to get that wrong, I'm going to let it happen.
Yes.
You're not saying that at all. What you're kind of saying is, I'm going to trust you to make the right decision and do the right thing because I believe that you have a better visibility of that situation right now than I. Now, the key thing there is they will probably do the right thing. Most people do. And it might go wrong. The worst thing you can do is turn on somebody for that because you allowed them to do that. So it is then also your problem to sort that problem out or that challenge out.
Absolutely.
And people need to have that iteration of that being okay.
Yes.
And then I think, and again, that's another a real culture drive through your business.
Brilliant. No, that sounds great. And I suppose lastly, because I appreciate we're quite close to time, if you are talking to an audience and that audience potentially happens to be somebody that's in the market for your services, if you both had a 30-second lift pitch to talk about what your why is as a business and of course how you can support those people and contact you, how would you typify that?
I would say number one, contact us by connecting with me on LinkedIn, Patrick Smith Zally. Imagine a world without passwords, where authentication is as easy as a heartbeat. This is what we're trying to create. Contact us to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, create better user experience, and drive revenue.
Fantastic. Will?
Contact me, Will Jackson, C2 Risk. You can find me through that same social media platform, LinkedIn. You could probably even find me on the website. I'd like to think that was a possibility. My lift pitch really, no, it's not a lift pitch at all.
Yeah.
So what C2 will do for you is assess your supply chain And there's nothing better than a defensible position of knowing where your risks are and knowing how to mitigate them in case something happens. And it's not an insurance sell. It is just you should have the awareness of where your risks are with that valuable gold of data that you have in your business. You should know where it is. You should know what they're doing with it. And you should be able to help them look after it better and mitigate problems from happening.
Thanks, Will. So that wraps up Cyber Sessions. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and look forward to speaking to you soon.